We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Will you stand for the pledge? Jerry, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have 3 items this afternoon, and after we have a presentation from our staff, we will ask those of you who are requesting a change to come forward and give us any additional information, and there might be some questions from our members here. And after that, we'll have a public hearing on each item, which will give you a chance to come forward to the podium over here. We ask that you try to keep your comments within the 3-minute range, if at all possible. Call roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Amber Brown.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
William Harper.
Here.
Renee Curtis. Here. Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
You have the minutes of the last meeting before you. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? So move. Have a motion to be approved? Second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. They are approved. The first item of business is a request by Noah Halfacre, who is requesting a special exemption for an accessory structure. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-40 involves the location at 1116 Dundee Court. It's a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards for ADUs involving a property located in the RM zone. And Mr. Halfacre's property is located at the corner of Precept Drive and Dundee Court in the Foxfire Meadows subdivision off of Baker Road. And he is seeking approval to place a detached garage with an apartment over it for a family member. Because the property does not measure the 1 acre minimum required to establish an accessory dwelling unit by right, he must obtain special exception approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals before he can obtain any permits for the structure. We received 2 informational calls regarding the request. One had mentioned some concerns about the covenants and restrictions, which we do not enforce. The applicant has indicated that the structure will be constructed to match the existing structure and use the same materials that the existing structure is comprised of. This property is also dependent on a septic system, and that allows them more land area to work with on their property. It's not used for septic lines. So these are the surrounding homes in the area. Most of them are newly constructed. And we found that it met the criteria for special exception approval.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please, to the podium. There. Just give us your name and any additional information you want to share with the board.
I'm Chris Bailey. I'm the general contractor for the job.
Just speak into the microphone.
Chris Bailey, and I'm the general contractor for the job, representing the homeowner.
Do we have any questions? Joe?
The entrance is going to be on the inside, or is there going to be a door from the outside?
It'll be a garage. There's a garage door. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a garage door there. But on the left hand side of
I
the
see-
property
I
facing
see
the
it now.
house, there's a man door.
I see it now. Thank you.
Gary?
Is that man door, man, or whatever door, man, woman door, whatever, is it coming through the garage area?
There's an additional door that separates the garage area from the stairs leading up. So when you come in the outside door to get into the garage, you'd have to open up another door in front of you to get into the garage, so it's separated.
So the means of egress coming out is not going to be going through the garage area?
Correct. There's two egress. You can either go through the garage or you can go out the side door.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman, with conditions.
Have a motion that be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. The next item, we have a request by Benjamin Baylock, who is requesting a special exemption for a home-based business involving dumpsters. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-41 involves the property at 2353 Braxton Bragg Drive. And Mr. Blaylock is seeking special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving dumpster rentals upon the property, which is located in the RM zone. And this is Mr. Blaylock's residence, and you can see from the aerial that he is in a platted subdivision. These red properties to the south fall within the city of Murfreesboro jurisdiction. This is the shop that Mr. Blaylock uses for his business purposes, and then his driveway that he uses to access this shop. So this was the result, his application was a result of code enforcement action. Once code enforcement was made aware of a business being operated without the required permits, a site inspection was made, and these are photos from that site inspection. So the dumpsters were being stored along the property line. Once the applicant was notified that he needed permits, he came into our office and spoke with both Doug, myself, and code enforcement, and he was given the path of a major home-based business to try to remedy the violation. He was apprised of all the conditions for major home-based businesses and addressed that in his application, how he met the criteria. So again, this is another photo from when code enforcement went out to the site and determined that there was a violation. When we visited the site to post the zoning sign, it looks like Mr. Blaylock had removed the dumpsters, and you would not tell that there was any kind of business activity occurring at the property. Now, we have received several phone calls in opposition from people who live off of Braxton Bragg. Concerns mentioned were noise, traffic safety with the school bus traffic, and the size of the trucks that are being used for the dumpsters. There were concerns about the smell of the dumpsters, as well as rodents that might be attracted to the dumpsters, as well as noise concerns. No one had indicated that they experienced any of those issues, but they were concerned given the fact that the request involved dumpster rentals. So these are the surrounding properties. And this is the site plan that was provided by the applicant. It just shows the location of the house, where he's parking the trucks, and the dumpster parking towards the back, the shop, and the driveway. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Just give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
I'm Benjamin Blaylock, the homeowner. Open to any questions.
Okay. How many dumpsters do you have there at any one time?
Most of the day the inspector came by was an oddity. I was staging for, to get them out. I have a picture of that afternoon, 3 or 4 hours later, where there was only 2 dumpsters remaining, or 3 dumpsters there. Most of my dumpsters are there for less than 24-hour period. There's never usually more than 2 or 3 there, and they are lined up. When they're there, they're beside the privacy fence and vegetation to the back. So, you really, if there's a truck parked in front of them, you don't even see them from the road.
Do you rent them out to trucking firms? Is that what you do?
Contractors, primarily 90% of my business is homeowners doing, junk clean outs, or contractors.
Do you have a truck that picks them up yourself?
Yes, sir, 2 of them.
Where do you keep it?
They're there also. I park them up under the awning portion of the building there.
Okay. Do you wash or clean the dumpsters at your site?
When required. No, not at my house, no, sir. If there's anything in question ever in those dumpsters that will create an odor, it's my house, so I'm not going to bring that around there. If there's any questionable odor or anything like that, or I'll take it and wash it out and treat it appropriately for whatever's needed.
What we're trying to do is understand what your operation is like. When it's put to a site, you pick it up and you take it to the landfill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
Clean it there? Is it cleaned there?
Yeah, well, no, sir. Normally, it doesn't require any cleaning because it's just sheetrock or wood or something. Very rarely is there even paint there because they don't like to accept those materials at the dump. So, if there's anything that might create a hazardous environment or anything for anybody, I'm not going to bring that around my house. It'll be treated appropriately as needed. But 90% of my dumpsters are dumped at Walter Hill, and then they go straight back out to another customer somewhere.
Okay. Now you've been operating now for how long?
Almost 2 years.
2 years.
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that you had to have approval?
No, sir. This is the first I've heard of it, and I'm here trying to do the right thing. I'm going to eventually, buy me a commercial property or whatever's required, to run my business out of. But I'm just, a small business owner trying to crawl before I walk.
How long do you plan on having this as a property? This
I would say
commercial
less than a year.
Are you limiting how long you're going to be there with this?
I would say, it all depends on my revenue and stuff, of course, but, yes, it would be a short-term deal, within a year or so.
Gary?
Where did you come from before? You said you've been here 2 years.
No, sir. I've been in that house for like 9 years now.
Okay. So you've been here 9 years, and you didn't know that there's any regulations to open something like this?
Never been advised. I've never been advised. My competitor, Jump Be Gone, turned me in. It wasn't a neighbor or anything like that. So, no, I wasn't aware of anything.
It doesn't matter who turned you in. You as a businessman should realize that there's regulations somewhere that's.
Well, not without being told, sir. With all due respect, until I was told that I needed. I'm trying to pursue the proper channels of doing it now. I guess I'm asking for forgiveness rather than permission, but, I wasn't aware. I didn't know. I had no clue. I've done everything as far as registering my business with the county, and no one ever told me. So, I'm from Mississippi. They do things a lot different there. It's not,
Tim, didn't you?
I was told about it, and I'm trying to address it, and...
Let me ask this question. How do you load the dumpsters on your vehicle to transport them?
It's a truck set up specifically for those. It's just a hoist, a winch line. It's basically like a rollback wrecker. It just loads the dumpsters, and they go up a roller, with a winch line.
All right. How long does it take, and how much noise does it take to load one?
less than 5 minutes.
How much noise does it take to load one?
It's not noisy at all. I mean, you would not hear it inside the house with nothing on, you wouldn't hear it at any residence near me. I mean, I have my neighbor here that's adjacent to me. I've got letters from everybody that surrounds me. You wouldn't know I was running the business out of my house if it wasn't for me telling you or seeing it. I mean, there's very limited trips in and out of my residence every day. Maybe max 3 or 4. So, most of my trips are picking up from one customer's house, dumping, and taking the dumpster somewhere else. The only time the inspector came by on the day that I was staging for a bigger job where I've had to take, 3 or 4 dumpsters to a single location. So, it was just a bad time to get a picture taken, but I've got random pictures that I've taken from days after, and there was 0 to maybe at the most 3 dumpsters there at any given time.
The neighbors that are adjacent to your property are all in favor of this?
I've got letters from them, yes, sir.
Are any stored in the back?
Wait a minute. We have Joel.
I guess my question is, the picture we saw, they're all stored down the side.
Yes, sir.
If we decide to approve this and put a exception on it, do you have a problem with not storing them on the side, putting them in the backyard or somewhere different?
Well, I can put, really that's the only place I have to maneuver them. I mean, I could put them down that fence line there or even up under my lean-to, but very rarely is there dumpster. That spot where that privacy fence is right there holds 3 dumpsters. They're only 12 foot long. So it'll hold 3 dumpsters just beside that privacy fence right there. And unless it's a rarity, normally there's never any more than that there.
You have 1 or 2 trucks?
I've got 2.
Both of them stay at the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I mean, I can send one home with my employee if need be. Like I said, I'm just here trying to right a wrong and just buy me a little time until I can purchase, a commercial property.
Jerry?
The picture she showed earlier, there were 5 dumpsters, 4 in a row and 1 behind a truck. You don't consider that intrusive?
Well, that day, like I said, that day.
That day happened.
Yes, sir. It did, and I mean, I don't. No one dumpster is there over a 24 or 48 hour period. Most of the time there's 1 to none there, and it might be on my truck.
You didn't answer the chairman's question. Where do you take them to wash them out?
Well, I take them to a car wash or wherever I need to, I've never really even had to wash one out. I mean, I don't haul that type of material. I don't haul household residential trash. I haul couches and...
So you've never washed one out at your house?
No, sir, no. I mean, there's nothing...
Where do your employees park?
They park at my house.
Bill?
I was just wondering how high they are.
Like 4.5 foot tall. They're about chest high.
And that fence hides them in the back?
Yes, sir, 6 foot tall.
Danielle, can we go back to that other picture?
And they're not garbage trash, they're construction?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll show you. I've got a picture of the inside of a bin that's been well used. If y'all want to pass it around and take a look at it. I mean, it's a rusty bottom. It's got some paint on it, this, that, and the other from construction. But it's nothing. I'm not hauling garbage, and it's not. There's never an odor. I mean, it's my house, so I'm not. I keep a neat place. I mean, I'm not creating an issue for any of my neighbors that I know of, or at least that has addressed me about it. So, like I said, the 2 neighbors on each side of me, the neighbor across the street, I've got letters from them saying, you know, y'all are welcome to see those. I mean, I just need to know what y'all would like for me to do.
So I do have a question. How many do you own?
I
Because I understand you're mentioning that they're coming, they're going, but business can change at any time, and we have to think about at any given time how many you own and what could possibly be on this property at a given time.
Well, that picture right there is the most that I've ever had at my property at one time. I have 17 that I rotate. I have 19 in all, but I rent over 106 or over 100 dumpsters a month. So, I mean, you can do the math on that. They don't stay, you know, they're not making me any money sitting in my driveway. So I make sure they go out. And, you know, to take 19 dumpsters or 17, rotate 17 dumpsters and rent them 100, 105, 110, 15 times a month, I mean, you got to hustle them, you know. So, like I said, I've got pictures from several days throughout the month since this has been going on. I'll be happy to share with y'all. It's got the date, the time on it that I took the picture. Shows you the amount of dumpsters there. Kind of maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable about it. I mean, I get it. It's a dumpster. People think dumpsters, nasty stuff. It's not. I mean, I've been doing this now, I guess, for, you know, a year and a half, 2 years. I take pride in my place, constantly, you know, keep the grounds up and stuff like that. And I'm not going to bring that stuff around my house, and I'm not going to try to give my neighbors an eyesore, you know, or
We understand, you're repeating yourself. Here, let me ask you one other thing here. You mentioned that your adjacent neighbors are not opposed to this. Do you have a letter from them?
I have a letter from each neighbor
Could
on
you
each side.
supply us with those letters
Sure.
from your adjacent neighbors?
And the photo that was passed around, we'll need that for the record.
And
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. You may be seated. If you'll put the letters up here. We'll open this for a public hearing at this time for those of you who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around, give us your name and any additional information you'd like to share.
Excuse me. My name is Vera Dempsey, and I live to the right of Ben Blaylock.
Could you show us where you live?
I live at 2341 Braxton Bragg Drive, and I can't...
Next door, is that it?
That's 2341.
Yeah, I'm 2341 Braxton Bragg, sixth
Okay.
house on the left, coming from Gresham. And I've lived there for 38 years. And I didn't even know he used to do my lawn, and I didn't know he had changed businesses for a while until he had been doing it for a while. There's no odor, there's no eyesore. If there's any complaint that I would ever have, it would be that he blows his leaves too often, that thing's noisy, just the blower, but it has nothing to do with his business. He is a good neighbor, and the business has never been, I sit out on my screened-in patio all the time. It never interferes with that at all. I never saw it the day that they had 5 out there, but they're always parked appropriately, and I'm just here to say I don't have an issue at all.
And you don't see a problem with it at all?
No, sir. None at all.
Any questions? Thank you. May be seated. Next. Anyone else? If you'll come around, please.
My name is Pat Darrell. I live across the street and 2 doors down.
What's your house?
2388.
Pardon?
2388 Braxton Bragg Drive.
Okay. You're down the street from this.
Right across and down one.
Okay.
I just have a question. There is a false street there across the street from Mr. Blaylock that doesn't go anywhere. And I just have a question. Is it permissible to park his truck and trailer with these dumpsters on it on that street? Because my house is second, and from my backyard, I used to see a truck and trailer and dumpster on that road.
Is that causing you a problem because they park there?
I just I don't
wondering
want to
about
give an
it.
opinion. I just want to know if that's included in this, that I don't know who, I guess that's owned by the city, I mean the county.
There may be some subdivision requirements there on it,
Because I've seen things,
but if they...
trucks parked
If
there.
they're tagged, and it's a stub street that goes nowhere, you may find a whole lot of people parked like that.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
But
they
it's
do.
probably not a good idea.
Well, I just wondered if he's going to have
Yes, ma'am.
dumpsters parked there,
Yeah.
because of it's not in the back, it shows from the street and so forth.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, how often has that happened?
I haven't seen it in the last couple of weeks.
Before that, how often did it happen? More than 10, less than 10, more than 20? More than 20?
I just know I've seen it quite a few times.
Thank you very much. Next, anyone else?
Hi there, I'm Kelly Hester, and I own the house by Miss Pat that just spoke at 2374.
2374, next door to her.
Yes, and my house is at that little street that's a dead end.
Right.
And I'm glad y'all put a sign out there that says no outlet. I do appreciate that. To make it clear, I own the house, but I'm renting it out at the time. It was my parents' house, and my parents died, and I bought it in 2014. And but we may live in it at one day. And it's ironic, the reason that we don't live in the house is my husband and I are established, and we have trucks and trailers and all kinds of things, so we didn't want to burden and live there with our overload of trucks and trailers as well. But we do not like that he has parked there all this time. And so my family's had this house since the 80s. And we were never asked, my dad, not even my sister, when she took care of my dad at the house, we have never been asked if this bothered us, because he did have a lawn care business, and I don't know if he still has it, but since the day they moved in, they have always parked trucks, trailers, just multiple vehicles at that outlet street that we would never be able to do anything with, and I have seen dumpsters, because I live now in Beech Grove, but we do seldom, or we do often drive by there, and I was very displeased about the dumpster. I did not formally complain, but I did call him a year ago, and I admit it's a nice looking dumpster, but they're brand new. And I told him that I did not approve of this, because this is my investment, and I'm all about businesses. My daddy was a realtor, and he had a real estate license and did that out of that house. But the coming and the going, there was no there wasn't any burden on neighbors at that time, but he's always had some type of business with many trucks and trailers there. He's always parked there. He has less than an acre. I believe our yard is bigger. It is 0.9 acre. We have more room than he does. I don't know how he gets all that in his, I know he says it comes and goes, but I think there have been employees that parked at that street, little trucks. I mean, you could not keep up with how many have been there, and even when I drive by, there are always something there. But I called him about a year ago, and I tried to be super nice about it, and I think I was. He was a little bit defensive because I don't actually live there, but it is my investment, and I may live there one day. It is intrusive. I don't know about the smells or anything like that, but it's very intrusive. And I don't appreciate it all, and I know the other neighbors are afraid that it will hurt their property values, and I'm one as well that I think that would hurt. And he does keep his house nice, but I mean, a dumpster, you know, contains garbage. Whether or not the garbage is there, we do not want it there.
Hey, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. The way I understand it, if he's got license and the vehicles are tagged and stuff, they are able to go on the road and operate. Can you think of another reason that's going to adversely affect to public health, safety, or the general welfare of that area?
Well, I'm sure a dumpster will at one time, but I'm not sure that I really understand what you're asking. Do I think it's going to hurt someone's health?
The public health, safety, or the welfare, general welfare of the area. That's
General welfare, would that be included an investment or eyesore, or I mean, these are homes that were all, I think my house was built 79. I mean, there are a lot of folks that are, I mean, over 50 folks. Somebody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to be involved in that. I mean, it's a very nice, kept up, it's Manson Manor, which is just one street. I mean, and most everybody, you know, it's not a lot of, or older, not a lot of new families because of the age of the homes.
And the reason I asked you this question is, I mean, I want to hear both sides of it before I make my decision. But but just someone just being on the road, if it's a licensed vehicle, it's hard to tell someone that's a licensed vehicle that they can't drive on the road. And that's why I'm trying to find out how this will adversely affect due to those three reasons, and that's why I asked you the question.
You have your house rented out, is that correct?
Yes.
You're 2374, and your tenant is Ingleson?
Yes.
Okay. He wrote a letter in support. So.
Thank you very much. You may
I
be
have a question.
Renee?
Are the dumpsters that you observe, are they only on a truck that's parked there, or the dumpsters themselves parked on the road by themselves, not on top of a delivery vehicle?
The only dumpsters I've seen are on the road itself. They're not on a trailer.
They're not a trailer, they're not on a truck, they're being stored on the outlet road.
That's
Or they are waiting to be picked up to be delivered. Maybe not overnight, or maybe whatever, but they're using that as a parking lot for storage.
Right, on that little side street there.
So, because if they were on a licensed vehicle, there was that's one thing, but, you know, on a public road is something else. Okay.
Any other question? Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone else?
I have complained for 2 years to the county about trucks, probably what he uses, other trucks going up and down the street. And I said there's supposed to be, I thought, a load limit on trucks, but we're in the county and I couldn't do anything about it. But they come up and down Gresham, and I've almost been run off the road twice by tractor trailers, even with wide loads. I live at 2293. I think I'm about 4 houses from him. I don't go up the street that much. I go out the other way. But in 2 or 3 years, if I decide to sell my house and somebody goes up the street and they see these dumpsters, a dumpster is a dumpster. And we're restricted. What if I wanted to bring in like a business and I had cows or horses or anything like that? And how did this man think that he could start this business and not say nothing to nobody? I don't care where you're from. You have to have a license to start a business. And this is restricted. Why does he get to bring in a commercial? It's a commercial business in a restricted area. And you tell me why you would allow that. I don't care how clean he is, it's a dumpster. And he says he has sometimes 17 to 19. Me and my husband are up in years. There's a lot of older people lives in the area where we're at. And we don't, I complained, I can't believe as much as I complained about these trucks going up and down the street. They said I couldn't do anything about it because of the load limit of the trucks. And you know if this thing is on a truck, it's gonna, and then you have to take them in and you take them out. Then you bring them back and you take them back. And I just don't think it's fair to try to ask the neighbors. And I have a neighbor, she's sick today. She lives across the street from me. And they have a business, they take care of the schools with vending machines, but they don't never bring in big trucks like that. And I think it's ridiculous because in a couple of years, when my husband and I have to move in with one of our children and we can't wait on ourselves, we're in our 80s. We've been there since '07, and I don't remember anybody ever trying this. But why didn't he ask permission? I don't care what state he's from. When you open up a business, if it's a restricted subdivision, why should he be allowed to do this? And as you can see when you show all the dumpsters, look how much space that takes up. We own 2 lots. How big is his lot? Does he just have one little lot? Now, how full is that lot? Has he got one lot? How can he get all that stuff on that lot without somebody seeing it? Or what kind of this truck he dumps them off with and picks them up? You know he don't have that much space. I've seen it. It looks like the dumpsters, here's the back of his house. The dumpster looks like it's sitting right at his back door. I object, and I hope some other people do.
We know you object. I think you have a question.
Shirley Ketron.
Shirley Ketron.
Yes, sir.
Any questions of this fine lady? Thank you very much. You may be seated. Anyone else? Anyone else? Close the public hearing. All right. Any further discussion? You got a couple of options here. You can either, for just cause, turn it down, or you can approve it. Also, you could put a time limit on this. He has indicated that he would like to move to maybe a better spot than this. So if you wanted to do that, you could certainly do it and let him come back at a certain time. And then if the neighbors out here who have talked to us have a question about it, they could come at that time. So those are the options.
I have a question. Mr. Blaylock said that he couldn't put the dumpsters in the back because he couldn't maneuver them back there. So in our guidelines here, it talks about nothing being stored outside in view. So how would we accommodate that requirement if we approve this?
I can chime in on that, or actually, Danielle, you're more of an expert on our actual language of our zoning ordinance. Can't the board grant a waiver for the outdoor storage?
The board can grant a waiver for the outdoor storage that's provided for in the major home-based business criteria. Also, they could include a condition for some type of screening to be installed, whether it's a privacy fence or landscaping.
Any other questions?
Danielle or Nick, let me ask you a question here. If we approved the business but denied the waiver for the storage, is that a possibility that could happen?
The board can do whatever the board wants to do, but I think it needs to think about the practical effects, because that's essentially denying the livelihood that you're granting via the special exception. So if you have any other questions for the applicant, if the board's inclined to grant it, as to what could be a feasible workaround to where he could put the containers or dumpsters on his property, or if he'd be willing to limit the amount of them as a condition of the permit, that he could only store up to 3 or something at any one time, that might be a reasonable workaround.
I mean, he can still work out of his home and conduct his business, but his storage would be at another location.
You might want to ask the applicant if that's a feasible workaround or not. It sounded like the reason he's needing the special exception is on the interim chance that he's moving his dumpsters to and from. He's going to need space to store them, at least temporarily, on a short-term basis.
Mr. Chairman, can we bring him back?
Zane, can we bring him back? Oh.
I understand that you're wanting to conduct business, but I also understand the neighbor's viewpoint of this as far as the storage and all this other stuff. Is that a viable option for you?
Well, I mean, they would be more exposed in any other location on my property than where they are now. The only way you can see them.
That's not my question.
Well, I've got a place off-site that I rent. It's a mobile home cover thing, you know, that I rent right by the VA. Now, occasionally I keep a dumpster or two there, but my tractor and my trailer and stuff's parked there now. I'm working on the off-site deal. I need just a break. Give me a year, and we can revisit this. If I'll have something done within a year.
That's not answering my question. My question is it a viable option for if we approved you to work outside in your home, but store the dumpsters at another location off-site?
No, sir. I mean,
that's not an option.
It's not viable for me, because I mean that's my hub. That's, you know, where I store. It's very minimal there at times. You know, it's not a viable option for me. No, sir.
Okay. So your answer, I want to make sure I'm clear. Your answer is that it's not a viable option.
Not monetarily at this time. It's not a viable, because I'll have to rent a spot. You know, and I get that's the cost of doing business, but I'm avidly looking for commercial property right as we speak, and I will address this. I need a little time.
But to be clear, it's not a viable option, the offer I'm offering.
To store.
To conduct business out of your home, but store the dumpsters at another location off-site of where you're living.
Well, sir, that's not the reason the reason I'm in here is because
and I'm trying to ask you a question.
It's not a viable option.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Joe, what at any one given time, what is the most number of dumpsters you would have at your house, not across the street stored in some other cul-de-sac or whatever that is, dead-end street?
There's never any dumpster stored across the street. Occasionally, I will set one on the road over there to be picked up. Like if I've got 2 trucks, so if I've got one sitting in Christiana or something, I'll bring it there and let my driver go to the dump with it, and I'll go get another one to save time. I kind of fill in, you know, and it's only there on the street maybe an hour or so. But I've talked to the neighbors on each side of there, and they, I haul their trash and stuff for them, and they're good with it.
What is the most number that you will have stored at your house at one time?
5. That would be the absolute most.
Okay.
And I would even, if y'all would consider this, I would store no more than 3 along that privacy fence. Can we show the picture of the privacy fence? No, it covers 3. It's 40 foot long. The dumpster's only 12 foot long. There's 3 there, sir. Right there. That privacy fence is 40 foot long. That shop is 40 by 42. And the 40 is the length. So that fence runs the entire length of that shop plus a couple of feet.
Picture, Danielle, with all the dumpsters lined up right there, please.
That's 6 dumpsters.
5, 6.
7 on my truck.
There's another one back in the back?
No, there's one on my truck. And that's the only reason those dumpsters were there. I've got a picture of that same day, 3 hours later. The only reason they're there is because I was staging them. I had a job that I had to take 4 to. So I had to empty them, and then we'd use 2 trucks to take them out. So I do have a picture of later that same day that picture was taken.
I can imagine, though, showing property to some prospective buyers in the neighborhood.
You never see my dumpsters, ma'am. I keep a truck parked.
7 right here, honey.
I know, ma'am, but that's just that's a fluke.
A fluke is.
That was later that afternoon, 2 hours later after that picture was taken.
What about putting a gate up?
Well, I normally keep a truck in front of it, so you don't even know that the dumpsters are there. I mean, they're protected by the shop in the side, the privacy fence on the other side, and vegetation in the back. I mean, you would never know. I mean, I've got 3 letters stating that.
Okay, I'm going to cut this short. If you go ahead and be seated. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I interject if I could? Just a few points to advise the board on, I guess just my thoughts here from a legal perspective. First, you can't take into account property values decrease or increase without any expert appraiser here. Remember that. So speculation about property values is not something you can consider. Number 2, when it comes to general aesthetics, that's something I would be careful to consider, not to consider, as not being viable evidence to base your denial on, just simply because it doesn't look good. I think that's one of many different factors, but the sole determining factor probably isn't wise. Number 3, remember here, a number of the people who have testified here, it's all more speculation as to what's going to happen in the future, and a number of people have said that are in the immediate vicinity that they're not particularly opposed to this. And then 4, remember, he's just agreed to a restriction of only having no more than 3, which would be far less than what's exhibited there. So that would be a restriction that could be placed that he's already agreed to on it.
I really have a question about whether this is an appropriate type of business in a subdivision. But on the other hand, if we put a time limit on this, and he's already stated he would get it somewhere else. So if you put a time limit on this, it will resolve itself if you choose to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move that we approve it with the exceptions that he's only allowed 4 dumpsters on site, and we'll revisit this in a year. We'll give him a year to decide, and this way the neighbors can look at it for a year and decide whether they want to continue with it or not.
Okay, do we have a second on that? No second. Motion died because of second. We have a motion on it again.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to discuss the guidelines. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, at least 4 in our own guidelines that this would fail to meet. No home business shall be permitted changes the outside appearance or character of the dwelling unit. No display of stock and trade products visible from the street. The equipment can't generate dust and that kind of stuff. That's not too big of a deal. Delivery vehicles, used goods, limited to passenger vehicles, mail carriers, express carriers. I just don't see how this is not more intrusive than what's intended by our own guidelines for this use.
Are you making a motion based upon that requirement?
Yes, sir.
Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second to it?
The motion is to deny based on those. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
No.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Abstain.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
No.
You may want to count those votes.
What's the count on it?
We have 1 abstain, 4 yeses.
It is denied. Okay. Next item of business is a request by Billy in Bonita Hall, and this is a 3-item request, and if you'll explain that, please.
Bear with me while I advance. Thank you. Application 2019-42 involves the location at 4201 Reedsdown Drive. It's a 3-part request. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving taxidermy and archery. The second request is a variance relief from the 5-foot side yard setback requirement for detached accessory structures. And the third request is variance relief from the 2,000 square foot maximum square footage allowance for detached accessory structures. This property is located in the RM zone. And in the aerial, you'll see the property as well as the detached accessory structures that are utilized for personal use as well as the major home-based business. This request is a result of a code enforcement complaint. The next couple of photos are from the code enforcement inspection where they determined that a violation was present. So the applicant had a ground sign posted on the property, another sign posted on the structure. It's a carport parking area. They also had an illuminated open sign. The illuminated open sign and the ground sign has been removed. That was removed after the applicant was made aware that they needed to obtain permits for the home-based business and variance relief for the structures. This is the principal dwelling. And the applicant is proposing to operate his taxidermy, and we'll talk about the special exception first. The applicant has a taxidermy and archery business. They service the schools for their archery programs, as well as whenever someone wants to have any taxidermy performed, they will bring the skull and bones to the site, and the applicant will dress or stuff the animal. The applicants indicate that their business is seasonal, and as far as meeting the home-based business criteria, they met the home-based business criteria for employees, business vehicles, number of customers. They don't expect a lot of customer visits at any given time. They feel that they can meet all of the criteria for a home-based business, but however, they needed approval because the square footage that's dedicated to the business activities exceeded 500 square feet. It automatically places it in the major home-based business category, and I believe they would like to keep one sign on the property to show people or customers where they're located. The taxidermy shop is located in a 30 by 20 building, and the archery shop is located in a 24 by 24 building on the property. These structures are located on the side of the home. Towards the back, you'll have additional structures, an RV cover and a shed for personal storage of garden equipment. And those are the subject of the variance request. The applicant requests variance approval for 2,896 square feet of detached accessory structure area. None of the detached accessory structures have obtained a permit, so we had no record of any permits being obtained for these structures that were placed upon the property. So the applicant, not having obtained any kind of permits for the structures, they exceeded the square footage that's allowed for detached accessory structures. Okay.
So what we're looking at right here in the picture, that has never been permitted?
None of the detached accessory structures have obtained a permit. There were no permits obtained.
That's detached?
The applicant, it's more than 3 feet from the principal structure. Is the roof touching so the applicant has indicated that if it's considered attached, because for the purposes of being attached, Tanya, and this is a building issue, you guys don't consider if the roof touches that it's attached.
Not for code purposes, if it's not attached to the actual structure itself with a roof line, it's not attached. However, for zoning purposes, I believe it's a little different.
So to answer my question is, that building there has not been permitted?
None of the detached accessory structures have been permitted. And this is, the applicant was brought in to discuss the home-based business. When the applicant came into the office, we have benefit of having aerials up to 2019, so we could see the evolution of the property, and we did a records search to see if any permits had been obtained for the structures. And it was at that point, it was determined during our meeting with the applicant that they needed variances for the square footage of the detached accessory structures, as well as the setback.
I guess where I'm headed with that is if we're going to have something possibly either approved and it's not even been, the building's not even been permitted.
Right, but see, this is why the applicant is before us, and he has the 3 requests. If he gets approved tonight, he's going to have to go into building department tomorrow or whenever within a reasonable time frame and obtain permits for all the structures, and they have to be inspected as part of those permits to determine if they meet code.
If we determine that the setback has not been met, we'll require them to move it.
But how are you going to go in and inspect a building that's already been built and it's not been?
Talking about this one or the built one? This is portable, so this can be moved.
Oh, it's a portable building?
Yes,
Okay,
it's
not
anchored at
stick-built.
each of the posts, but it's portable and can be moved.
Oh, it just looked like it may have been a carport with a.
Right, the building behind it is separate. They're 2 different structures.
So neither one of them has been permitted?
Nothing's been permitted.
She didn't make a picture of that. We don't have that.
Well, I mean, we have a site plan that the applicant has drawn out showing the location of all the structures. The aerial also shows the structures as well.
But my point is, I have an issue with us, something that we're maybe approving, and the building hadn't even been permitted. And then
Mr. Fogg, you're just approving the use. You're not approving the building, so you cannot take into consideration any particular code violations of the building itself. We're only here with the use.
I may not take an issue with it, but I have a personal opinion that I have a problem with. Never mind.
Did you finish yours?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But to respond to your concerns, there are often structures that are built that you guys consider that they're coming after the fact. And before we can legally permit them, they have to get variance approval or use approval before we can even issue any permits so we can determine compliance.
All we're going to say is whether it's use or not.
Okay. So the second request, the variance really for the square footage, and I hope I made that clear, they're seeking 896 square feet greater than what their property is allowed. And that's the sum total of all the detached accessory structures measuring 2,896 square feet. So they're not proposing to add additional structures to what's already there. They're just asking for what's already there.
Okay.
And then the third request is a setback request. And the detached accessory structures can measure 5 feet off of the property line. And when the applicant was able to identify the corners of the property and determine the property line, he measured that the garden shed was 1 foot 3 inches off of the property line. And so we are considering a setback variance as part 3 of this request. And so this is the site plan that was provided by the applicant. You can see the location of the home, the open car cover that you see that the sign is attached to. Then they have a 24 by 24 structure for the archery shop, and then a 30 by 20 foot building for the taxidermy services. Then you go towards the back of the property, and they have a lawn equipment and storage shed that violates the setback requirement. And they have an open carport RV cover for their RV. Now, the applicant has supplied a petition from neighbors in the area with their signatures and addresses indicating support for the request. Also, we included a letter from someone who represented the Rutherford County Schools archery program indicating that they would like the Halls to be able to continue to operate their business from this site. We have received informational calls regarding this, but no one has indicated any opposition.
We have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. If you'll give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
My name's Billy Hall. I'm the owner. I live there. It's me and my wife's business. We started it. I guess we moved up here from Texas right at 7 years ago, and I started the taxidermy shop right after I moved here. The very first structure, which is the building that you see, that is a steel frame building, kit building that was brought from Texas. And I apologize for being here tonight and having to go through all this, but I got some bad information when we first moved up here, and we've discussed this with Danielle and everybody in the other meeting. Before we came to Tennessee, I called and asked what the requirements were on the buildings because I couldn't find a building here like I liked. So I bought it in Texas and hauled it up here, and we put it up. And in that information, I was told that it would meet any requirements that Tennessee would have if it was a steel frame building coming from Texas. And I also asked if I needed a permit to put it up, and I was asked if I was in the city or in the county, and I was told I was in the county, and they said I didn't need anything. So when we moved here, I actually put that building up, and so I bought the building in the back corner, the gardening building. We bought it from the building company here in town, and it's just one of the steel frame building erect with gravel floor. And we put that one up with me thinking in mind that it was okay. We also put the carport cover and the RV cover up at the same time, as we did all three of those at the same time. When I added on the back portion, and the archery just kind of slowly started as we started working with the schools and stuff, doing the archery services for them because they've never had a maintenance program. And so as we started doing that, we added on to the back of the original steel frame building. And so that is all one building where it says this much square footage and this much square footage, but it is all one building. And I was reading the home-based business rules online, and there was some stuff in there that just wasn't real clear to me. So I called the phone number on that website and was given to someone, and I asked questions. And through all of that, they asked me what kind of business I was going to be doing, how much traffic I was going to have, told me that they did not like automotive shops in housing areas because of all the cars parked around. They did not like funeral homes. And after all of our conversations, they even told me, the guy even gave me an illustration of a guy that was rebuilding beds on trucks, gravel trucks, and was banging and stuff at his home, and they had to shut that down. So we kind of went through a whole conversation, and he said, as long as you're not doing any of these things, you're fine. You don't need anything special. So we got a business license. I've had a business license. I have a TWRA taxidermy license. I have a federal taxidermy license. I thought I had done everything that I needed. When the gentleman come out and we started dealing with Danielle and them, they asked me if I had a name of the person, and I said, honestly, I don't. And I said, this is what I've done. I thought I covered my bases. And
how long have you been operating without approval?
The taxidermy shop, I started it about a year and a half to 2 years after we moved here. We've been here for about right at 7 years. And then the actual archery portion of it, we just basically started working with the schools and stuff last year, and we just added the archery portion of it.
How much traffic do you have going in and out?
Very little. People will just come in, drop stuff off. They're there about 10, 15 minutes, and they leave. This week, I've had maybe two customers, maybe. We tried to set our hours so that we didn't open until, people had left to go to work, and then we had our hours set to close at 6 o'clock, but we're changed that till 5 o'clock so that we're closed before people are coming home in the evenings, trying to, be good to our neighbors. It's a quiet business. We don't have anything stored outside. We do have a 20-yard shooting lane right beside the building that has a wooden fence around it, and in the back it has 3/4-inch horse mats with targets so that arrows cannot be lost, and it also has canopies over the top to catch any arrows.
Okay, see if we have any questions here. Gary, any question? Okay, thank you. You may be seated. Let's open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around, please. Give us your name and any additional information.
My name is Mary Lowe Hinches. I'm at 4145 Reed Downs Drive, the property directly to the east of the property in question. And if you weren't for the signs, you wouldn't know that there's a business there. Once he took down the illuminated signs, it was much easier to see that it's not a business. There's been a lot of cars on holidays when everybody else has cars in their driveway or they're gone. 2 to 3 people per week, maybe, I've seen there. I work from home as well. Not as much of it, and there's not a disruption. In fact, you can see the shed on the the aerial, but you can't really see it from my yard, and my yard's on the other side because there's that much shrubbery.
Yeah, you're right next door to it, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That is my house.
Okay.
That needs more yard work. But the shrubbery does tend to disguise the fact that it was that close. The business is very quiet. Not much traffic. And And since the hours have been reduced, they really don't notice anything.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? If you'll come around, please.
My name's Blake Hathcock. I'm the house to the right of Billy, looking at his house.
What is your house
4207.
number?
4207. Right there.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Again, she's correct. I mean, 2 to 3 people a week. I'm an archer myself, so it's nice having him next door. But no noise at all. None that I can complain about at all. No traffic in the street. Nobody's blocking the road. No noise at all. I don't know what else I can say, but he's a great neighbor. Loved him ever since he's been there. Get along great with everybody in the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
My name's Gary Sexton. I live in Eagleville, Tennessee. He's a church member. I've been to his house several times, specifically at lunchtime. And I've never noticed any influx of traffic or any disruption of anything in that neighborhood since I've been there. Aesthetically, it seems to be a very nice-looking shop, a nice-looking area. To me, it adds something to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public hearings. Any further discussion? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second? Have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Call the roll,
I have
please.
a question. We need to have 3.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. This is on these, we're going to have 3, okay? This would be for the taxidermy and archery, okay? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Now I'll entertain a motion on the side yard setback requirement.
Who seconded that motion? Okay.
Are we moving too fast for you?
Okay, sorry.
Question, I got a question here. The side yard setback. Tanya, that you were out there, or somebody was out there.
Oh, I was out there.
You were out there. The one building for the side yard setback, can it be moved? It sounded like it could.
The applicant is shaking his head yes.
Okay.
Okay, you making a motion? Joe?
If that's the only building, I move to deny that because he can move that, correct?
You make a motion that be denied?
I make a motion that the side yard setback be denied.
All right.
The garden shed.
Yeah, the garden shed.
Do we have a second? Got a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
No.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. It is not. Okay, so...
So to be clear, he's going to have to move that shed, right?
That's correct.
Right. It's...
Pardon? The square footage. He is requesting 2896 square feet.
For the square footage?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about...
I move it be approved.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Just to make sure, clear for the record, that the last motion was to deny the variance for the setback, and that was denied. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, good. That cleared up?
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion to approve the square footage.
Okay, have a motion, the square footage be approved.
And I had a second on that.
Have a second. Any further discussion? I know, for me too. Call roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. Any further business?
No, sir.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, folks, for being here.